Hey, I'm Jake Vivers and I'll be doing a presentation on rabbits as my animal. So my first question reads, tell me about these animals, how would they most likely live in a totally natural environment? They're small furry creatures in the mammal class and there's about 8 different genuses, and I'm going to be presenting more focused towards the European wild rabbit. This particular type of rabbit is an invasive species in Australia. It was brought over during European settlement on the First Fleet in 1788, and it's a prey animal, so its physical features have evolved as such. Their big long ears and wide field of vision have evolved so that they can detect predators nearby. They also avoid predation by often sleeping with their eyes open. They have 5 toes on their front paws for burrowing, and if they're caught in the open, their 2 strong hind legs with their 4 slightly webbed toes are good for hopping away, more like in a zigzag motion, if anything. That's how they've adapted. Their teeth as well, they've been physically adapted for gnawing, if anything else, and they continuously grow throughout their lifetime from birth till death. They're also most active at dawn and dusk, which makes them a crepuscular animal. During these twilight hours, they graze on what's a herbivore diet. That's why the gnawing teeth come in handy. And they eat mostly weeds, grass, wildflowers, and vegetable plants, which actually causes problems to human agricultural industry, but I'll talk about that in a second. And they also have a documented life expectancy of about 3 years in the wild and about 8 to 12 years in captivity conditions. And they also have a documented life expectancy of about 3 years in the wild and about 8 to 12 years in captivity conditions. The second question I posed is, do these animals put humans at risk in some way, and if so, how? So they could pose risks to various degrees. The direct risks are obviously zoonotic diseases and the spread of them to humans. And the zoonoses associated with rabbits are pasteurellosis, ringworm, microbacteriosis, cryptosporosis, and other external parasites. Allergies to rabbit hair and dander are also pretty well documented, and none of these are lethal to human beings unless going untreated. They can also be responsible for losses in biodiversity with the native animals and plants. I mean, even as few as 2 or 3 rabbits per hectare is enough to stop the natural regeneration of native plants, and that's all due to the herbivore diet, as I was talking about before. And it's the natives like the wattle, the sweet basaria, the native pines, the needlebush that are all affected by this. And like, what is biodiversity? Like, it's the important variety in the plants, animals, and microorganisms in an ecosystem. It's this variety that creates the balance of the relationships species have with each other, and whether like it be mutualism, commensalism, or like predation or parasitism. Like, upsetting this balance puts pressures on the native species. It puts pressures like to compete with the rabbits, and like even to the point of endangerment. It's also quite dry in a lot of the parts of Australia, and especially inland. The effect of rabbits have on the farming industry is quite catastrophic. I mean, like, due to overgrazing, ring barking, and browsing, these animals cause an estimated $115 million of damage to the industry each year. It's a more direct, significant risk to humans as it disrupts one of the biggest food sources in the country. I mean, it could get to the point where we need to import every single piece of food that we want to eat. And because of all this damage, wild rabbits are considered a pest species in Australia. And the third question is, what is the future looking for these animals? What factors might affect their future? So like I said, rabbits are considered a pest species in Australia. And so because of this, humans have been and will continue to use strategies to control the invasive species. Like poisoning programs, warren ripping, trapping, shooting, and putting up rabbit-proof fences. Another factor is biological controls of the population. So things like rabbit hemorrhagic disease and calcivirus decimate populations once exposed to it, wild or domestic. Because of these 2 factors, wild rabbits could eventually drop in numbers over time. However, it will probably be near impossible to completely eradicate the species altogether in Australia. They continue to be destructive to the agricultural industry and upset the biodiversity of the natural ecosystems and compete with the native species.